The Toxic Avenger is a 1984 American superhero black comedy splatter film directed by Michael Hertz and Lloyd Kaufman, starring Mitch Cohen, Mark Torgel, Andrew Miranda, and Pat Ryan Jr.
Meet little Melvin. He's a 90-pound weakling. Everyone hated Melvin.
I'm gonna take this mop and shove it down your throat.
They teased him.
I wanna do it with you. Okay.
They taunted him. They tormented him until he had a horrifying accident and fell into a vat of nuclear waste, transforming little Melvin into a hideously deformed creature of superhuman size and strength. Melvin became the Toxic Avenger.
Dun 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 dun! Welcome back to the Cult of Films. I'm John, the host, and tonight I'm joined by two very important superheroes. That is Johnny Mulligans and returning once again, the Dooker. Welcome back, sirs.
Thanks for having me. I was entirely unprepared that we were doing the Toxic Avenger. Like, I don't know what I'm gonna say about it. Just I guess I'm gonna just have to wing it off the tip of my nose.
So you've never heard of the Toxic Avenger before?
I have no idea what the Toxic Avenger is,
right,
or what it's about. So whatever I'm gonna say can be applied to literally any Disney movie.
It is very Disney movie-esque, I will say that.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, you are kind of the perfect guest to have on. You are more, I would say, versed in the Troma-verse. I know my Troma a little bit, but this is a very fun movie. And when you think of cult films, this is kind of the crown jewel as far as the B movies went, especially for Troma Films and what that has become. Johnny Mulligans. How were you aware of the Toxic Avenger? Did you watch the animated series when you were, a little Johnny in your dungaroos?
I had no friends, no girls that hugged me till I got radioactive ugly. Toxic Crusaders.
I was a child in the 80s and heard something about this, and there was something about a toxic. I was aware-ish. Sure. You said Toxic Avenger. I was like, hey, okay. Is this like a little wee Marvel spin-off thing? Something like is this like the Avenger we don't hear about? Is it the ugly cousin? This is just my life now. This is what's happening.
This is what you do.
This is what
It's based off of Tiny Toons, man.
This is something in a past life. I did something to deserve this, and here I am.
Absolutely. All right. Well, no one is more qualified than you, Mr. Dooker. What is the Toxic Avenger about?
The Toxic Avenger is actually a family film about a 90-pound weakling from New Jersey finding his inner strength. A superhero, low-budget, horror splatter comedy superhero movie about a nerd who gets bullied and he becomes essentially a superhero with the help of toxic waste, to the point that he is essentially a slasher villain, taking on sort of the undesirable people in Tromaville, including bullies at the health club to the mayor himself.
Rewatching this, I'm like, am I watching Killer Workout? I forgot that there's so much aerobics in this film.
It is. I work out to the soundtrack of Body Talk quite often.
This is literally the film that, it built the house of Troma. And, you go back and you look at Lloyd Kaufman, who's kind of the founder of this studio. They were doing just like sex comedies back then. They were doing, they started with Cry Uncle and Squeeze Play. He had some in at this, like shooting at this, this club, this workout gym. He and his friend kind of filled in the gaps, and there you go. You have, and you said it perfectly, Dooker, where you have this character where it's just like, what if Mike Myers was the hero? And that's essentially what this becomes. Like, it's a monster movie, but the monster movie is going to help the old lady across the street with her groceries. And that's fantastic.
One, you said you weren't the expert, and you just dropped that knowledge on me. But yeah, that's essentially, from what I've read, that's how they pitched it, was a slasher movie where the slasher was essentially a good guy. They're like, oh, let's take a fresh approach to it, and that's what they did. And it just, it shines through. It was the perfect time for a movie like this. And as you said, it was, the building blocks to Troma's early success.
Johnny, did you watch any of even the funny boner comedies back then, like the Porky's or anything? What did you watch back then?
I can't remember. I'm too old. I what was I watching? I don't know. Transformers, GoBots.
Okay.
Stuff like that.
Dare to be stupid. Yeah.
Yeah. I would catch whatever movies, whatever cartoons were. Wherever, I don't know, there was something about dinosaurs and people riding dinosaurs with high technology and prehistoric. Then I'm looking back,
sure. Yeah.
Why was I watching that pile of garbage? Yeah, I think Transformers was one of my things that I was quasi into.
Okay, so 10 minutes in, Johnny, so you were still okay, this is going. You kind of they introduce Melvin, right? And you're just okay, so this is probably going to be the person that transforms into the superhero. Were you just I'm watching...
Well, I mean, they literally spell it out for you with the narration. So it's not like there's a surprise there.
With the guys with the toxic waste that are just, hey, we got to take a coke break. Because everyone in the 80s had to take a cocaine break. But
everyone in that movie was on a coke break. Are you kidding me?
Was it?
This is 5 minutes in.
Yeah.
Again, this is where it's I'm starting to appreciate movies that actually have people that try to act. And this is a movie where the director's just be as canned ham corny as you possibly can be. We need stereotypes, fake smiles, and lots of workout equipment. God. Don't forget that spandex. You could fill a warehouse full of canned corn with the amount of corn coming out of this movie. It was insane.
Eat it all up.
But by the time I'm 10 minutes into this movie, I've already given up. I'm well, I know what I'm getting. Whatever. I'm not caring much about this.
Did you have fun with it though?
Oh, it was eventually, yeah, you get into it far, you get further, if you haven't walked out in the first 15 minutes, you eventually start to laugh at everything because it's all so stupid and so absurd. And you get to the point it's oh, look, the whole town just rolled up on their tent with tanks and everything. And they slept right through it.
The National Guard.
Sure, yeah. Whatever.
I remember, vividly when I was a kid. I don't know how I got a hold of this movie as a kid, but I did. And I remember just watching it, and I was super pumped. And then it got to the scene where Bozo and the gang, knocking down people in the thing, and then they rolled over little Timmy's head. I was like, oh my God, and I turned it off. Because I felt terrified, number one, when I was a kid, and two, I was just fuck, I should not be watching this, because I thought, I literally thought it was going to be this fun little superhero film. Did you have that same kind of reaction, or did you kind of find this when you already knew what it was?
So, big surprise, I've actually got a little bit of a story about how I discovered the Toxic Avenger.
Nice.
Daddy Dooker used to work at a video store. So I would, occasionally get screeners. I'd sift through, just walk the aisles, right? Well, one of the screeners was a VHS of the Toxic Avenger. So eventually, as I started to get older and watching, horror movies, stuff like that, Toxic Avenger has always been one of those titles in the ether of my mind. So when I was around 13, 14, I checked it out. I had the VHS and I enjoyed it. I watched it a lot, but I was 14 and there were boobs, so hooray! There wasn't a lot of violence, but one day I was with my boy Scumbag and Ian the Mohawk. He was having a party, and he throws on the Toxic Avenger, and I'm watching it. The head crushing scene you're talking about comes on. And up until that point, anytime I watched it, the scene ends in the VHS I had when the kid gets hit. Right. You never see the car go back and run over his head. Oh. So as soon as I saw that happen, I was like, what the fuck? It's a whole new Toxic Avenger to me.
Wow.
So and then somebody complained about watching a movie at a party, and they turned it off. and I never talked to those motherfuckers again. That movie. I love this movie. Like, I'm so sorry, Johnny. Once again, we will battle about this. And it's funny because Lloyd Kaufman himself, he's very passionate to the point that some people that aren't familiar with his work or his approach might be like, is he a little off? But like, he's so passionate about his stuff, and he believes he's making a serious movie, but you watch something like The Toxic Avenger and you watch the character of Bozo, who's one of the best characters in cinema. I'm sorry, but it's true, Julie.
That name, that's
I got problems.
Name. I'm stressed out. I'm like, swear to God.
You can't trust Bozo.
And not Corey Feldman. And his best friend, not Corey Feldman, right?
God, it's just.
Someone's turning in an Oscar-worthy performance. That is not.
God. I think you need to finish that whiskey.
He might have been better choice than Mitch Cohen, because Bozo, he changed his entire face.
She's stressing me, slug.
Yeah, Gary Snyder, who plays Bozo, he's at like I absolutely love his performance, because even though he's not a great actor, he puts so much into this role, and is so over the top. To paint broad strokes on it, this movie is a lot of fun. And just a fun fact about him, if you look on YouTube, you look hard enough, you find out that he does later work, and he's like a party clown, and it's just like it's just weird.
So good. Yeah, it was just so perfectly cast. It was just like, it like you said, for lack of a better term, it's just a fun film. It's like a Killer Clowns from Outer Space, where yes, you're gonna go in, you're gonna see the seams, but you're not seeing boom mics or anything. Like, it's still a competent film. It's shot really well. Like that chase scene where Melvin's in there with Bozo, and like he keeps like slamming his foot on the accelerator. Like, all that's like really cool. The fight scenes are a little funny. The fact that they were like a trauma film, especially back in 1984, was able to show restraint of not revealing Melvin's face for like until
a long time.
And then it revealed it for a gag. Like, that was my favorite part. It wasn't like, it was this like build up. It's just like, nope, we're not going to show his face. We're not going to show his face. And then it's like, oh, remember that joke when the not Corey Feldman went to the sauna and fucked his girlfriend? That's Robert the gag.
Elephant Man joke.
It's funny, like, Trauma is known for like, low-level schlock, stuff like that. But this movie did have an actual, budget.
$400,000. You
see, and in 1984, that's a legitimate budget for a movie. Absolutely. And like, the practical effects are really good. They have that level of cheese, but that always, to me, has always stood out more so than anything else. Like, and that's sort of like when they did the head crushing scene and they used the watermelon. It's like, it's such like almost a cheap trick, but it's so like vivid,
so effective
that it sticks with you, and it just is like, whoa, it's so shocking. Like, they pull no punches. They just killed a kid.
Yeah, and it's just, I think, yes, and schlock is the word, and that's what happened here. It's like, by the time I'm 15 minutes into this movie, I'm like, okay, schlock fest, all the schlock. So, oh my God, I didn't realize 90 minutes could hold this much schlock. It got to the point where I was less mad and just impressed.
Yeah. This movie is it's such a fucking like wacky romp that, it's
a cartoon.
One of those movies. Yeah, I've played it like with those people that I'm like, you can't play, the original I Spit on Your Grave, the 1978 version, because it's not going to really land. But you can play the Toxic Avenger to sort of like a general audience, and it's just so, it's offbeat, but it's not so offbeat, it's off-putting, right, that people sort of like vibe it, you know? So
yeah,
it's got that appeal to it. And
the usual suspects are going to hate it, and you find your kindred weirdos.
And they do it in a way where it's like, it's almost like Trojan horse style, where you're seeing the most horrific things. You see a dog get blown away, and then later on they show the dog and it's still breathing. It's like, but you're
so
still
unacceptable.
You're still into it though.
It's so cheesy. The one-liners, everything's just so.
Yeah.
We'll ignore the attempted rape in that scene because they kill a dog and it's fucking bullshit. All right.
Hey.
Except don't ignore the attempted rape. That's not good either.
But that dude gets his arm ripped off and then shoved into a pizza oven. So
that fucking guy, if you rewatch the movie, that arm that gets ripped off was a prosthetic arm because the actor only had one arm.
Oh, really? I didn't.
What?
That's amazing.
The entire
casting was like, "What you got?" I'm short an arm. Oh, wait, flip. Hey,
you're in.
You know what?
You're in.
We got a roll for you. You're hired.
You see him, he's like fighting him with one arm the entire time, and you don't think about it for the first viewing, but the more you watch, you're like, that arm is fake. He's just, it's wild.
But
also, can we ask about the samurai sword in the
Taco Bell
restaurant?
It's like, again, you get to that point and you're not caring anymore. You're just like, it's a taqueria. They got samurai swords. Sure, whatever.
Yeah. But the story is so wholesome, though. It's essentially, it's just like, it's the nerdy kid gets the hot girl, but it's like, the hot girl is willing to, like, go past skin deep because she's blind and all this. But it's like, it's really, like, their relationship is super sweet. It's like more saccharine than most, like regular rom-coms that Jennifer Lopez is in. So it has such a heart. Yes, it's wacky and it's Looney Tunes and it's literally like throwing guts against the wall. But it's just like, it's so enjoyable. And you get so warm and fuzzy while watching it.
Yeah, that was a fun part of it. Like, that felt like there was some substance there.
But now that you said something at the beginning of this, Dooker, where you said they cut away from the gore in the original one that you saw. So now I don't know if I saw the director's cut or not, because I knew that Marissa Tomei was in this movie, but I was looking hardcore for her, like, like a Where's Waldo kind of situation, just because I want to see, like, an actual actor in the wild of this, like, wild movie. And I can never pick her out, but it said that she's in the director's cut. She plays the role as Girl in Locker Room, and I didn't see it, but maybe she's in the edited one, like the one that you were talking about.
I did scour this, and the scene, I believe, when he is chasing Julie, he's chasing her through the locker room, and there's a brief shot right after the heavyset girl in the gray sweatsuit. Like, she backs up and he's like, "I'm sorry, miss." There's a girl that runs by in a towel, and I believe that's Marissa Tomei. It's brief, but it is very trauma to be like, "Hey, look at this Oscar-winning actress that we have put into our movie," because they have launched careers. If I read correctly, some of the older Trauma-produced movies had Samuel L. Jackson and I want to say Brad Pitt in them.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I was very surprised to see Melissa McCarthy as the more heavier set gym goer in this film.
Was that Melissa McCarthy?
No. Okay, I do have a gripe about this though. Like, this is one of the most fun movies of all time, but there is something that I want to give shit for, because they make the gruesome scenes, like killing the kid is like, yeah, it's a watermelon like you said, but it's explicit, and they go back and even, Karen number 2 is like masturbating in the sauna to like a kid's like destroyed face. It goes real dark. But once he goes back and starts killing the people that like transformed him, they cut away from like most of the good shit. You don't get to see the comeuppance at all, and it bothers me so bad. You see, he puts Karen number 2's ass like on the sauna rocks, and then it cuts away, so you don't even know if she's alive or not. And then
that did seem weird.
Yeah,
but, like it's almost like he pulled punches with a couple of these characters.
Right.
Meanwhile, the drug dealer, who we've only met for 30 seconds, gets the gym equipment dropped on his head.
Yeah. Oh, it's such a good scene.
I'm like, it's just, and right there, that's like the essence of this. You're like, oh, we're a practical effects movie. Okay. Cool. What's next? Let's go.
Right, but then you waste it on the people that you want to see get their comeuppance the most. Like, the whole gang fight was so fun, but then you go to, like, not Corey Feldman, and he, like, just throws him out of the car. I'm like, oh, come on, I want to see, like, his, like, head hit a street sign or explode in a Gallagher watermelon fashion or some bullshit, you know, like, and the one that you want to see the most, the Julie, you know, Karen #1, it completely cuts away. You don't get to see a thing about that, and that was so disappointing.
Yeah, that's just, maybe they do that on purpose for people like you, just to tick you off. Be like, you deserve this.
I have an answer for that.
All right, let's hear it.
All right. So I'm sorry, like, so I agree. It is sort of uneven that where the main antagonists don't get their comeuppance. However, Wanda and Julie, Wanda's brown hair, Julie's the blonde.
Sure.
It's because if you watch the deleted scenes, he does not kill them. Julie comes back and they meet in a police station because he brings them to the cops, I guess, which sort of goes against the whole, like, traumatons or whatever. Yeah. He brings them to a police station, and Julie and Wanda get into a fight, and Julie has her head, like, all cut off, and it's bad bald wig with, like, little blonde strands, and then Wanda's in a diaper because he just burns her ass on the rocks.
Yeah.
So I do agree. It does feel like sort of like a pull away that they go real all out with the practical effects on some of the lesser guys, but my guess is that's why, and they decided just to leave it more ambiguous.
Yeah, I either way, and I appreciate that deep dive, but I still, like, even the mayor gets, like, a literal gut punch, and then he's, like, pulling out his own guts. Well, like, all the kids from the neighborhood are around, they're like, yay!
Let's see if you got any guts, fat boy.
It's like they all just die in just horrible fashion, but yeah, but even Bozo gets it the worst, but even that's, like, you see after the fact. You just, like, hang out in the corner.
I agree. It's sort of a bummer because those two, they really ramp up as, like, the biggest pieces of garbage. And, you know, Bozo's such an over-the-top character, I would love a more over-the-top death as well. But, like, you know, he's screaming and he's pleading the entire way. He's like, I'm a stressed guy. I'm a stressed guy. And, you know, I'd want my death every frame.
That's right. That's my one gripe. I'll get off my grandpa soapbox, but I was like, I want to see the bad guys get their guts pulled out.
No, there's no reason to not be on that soapbox. It's a movie that advertises that. I want to see it too. I want to see more. That's probably why they made 3 more movies.
The little old lady in the dry cleaning thing basically was turned into a panini sandwich, but we didn't even know she was a dickhead.
Yeah, she was like a Nazi or something that ran an underground ring.
I do love that throwaway line. They're just like, "Oh, you know that little nice lady? Yeah, she's actually a Nazi." It's like,
but keep this under wraps. Yeah. Giant 3-foot-long sandwich.
Yeah. Oh god.
Jealous.
That was so. Half the scenes with the mayor, he's on the massage table.
What? The ADR and the cutaways and, like, the close-ups, just like the weird, like, who? Like,
yeah.
It's just something about it just gives it that, like, unique personality to me. That I'm like, all right.
Here's my gripe. Why couldn't they, when they are dubbing in the audio for the Toxic Avenger's voice, it sounds like not the actor.
It's not. Like, it's Kenneth Kessler.
It's an announcer. Excuse me, sir. Do you need any assistance, officer? Derpa. Like,
so essentially, there's 3 actors playing the role of Melvin, the Toxic Avenger. You have Mitch Cohen as the body of the mutated one, the big buff guy. Then you have Kenneth Kessler as the voice, and then Mark Torgel as Melvin before the change and during the, in the bathroom scene. So it's 3 different people. So. And real quick, cool brag. I'm sorry. Mitch Cohen now follows me on Twitter, so I didn't know if you guys knew that or not.
You lucky.
I mean that. I'm glad that makes you happy.
So I've been trying to get blue coffee shot down for, I don't know, the entire time I've been doing this, and
when I stub my toe, I expect him to show up and be like, "Hey, buddy, Let me help you to your bed.
Hey, you know, this is it's a who you know kind of business, and the more you know, the better. So you win, man. This is cool.
Lloyd Kaufman tells me to fuck off and then yells at me for an hour about how big media has destroyed him. Which it really has. Like, if you small tangent, you watch The Last Blockbuster, the best part of that documentary is Lloyd Kaufman hassling the interviewer for like 2 minutes.
You wouldn't mind introducing yourself to our viewers?
Why? I'm just curious. Why do I need to do that?
In case we use the audio. Hi, I'm Lloyd Kaufman, and
You don't know fucking anything about me, do you?
I know.
Oh, you do?
I know who you are.
Oh, all right.
But
The Last Blockbuster?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I was a Blockbuster kid. Why do you think I watched all this bullshit? How do you think I saw Cabin Boy?
I'm really sorry. Unbelievable for me, that moment of like realization of what I was dealing with when I went and checked out some of the details about this on IMDb, and then only to find out that there were sequels, plural. Multiple sequels to this movie. I'm like, what? But why?
Yeah.
What'd you do?
It's awesome because, you know, Yogurt from Spaceballs came in. He's like, Toxic Avenger the merchandise and Toxic Avenger the kids program. That's the best thing about it is they made a kids cartoon program about this. It was very short-lived, but just the fact that they made this for kids. I mean, they made a Beetlejuice, you know, animated series, which was like really great. And it's just like, oh, have you people ever seen Beetlejuice? It's pretty fucked up, but it's just like, no, Toxic Avenger? Really? Like, people had Toxic Avenger lunchboxes and backpacks and, you know, these little kindergartners. That's Lloyd Kaufman, I think, his greatest achievement.
Oh,
yes, you gotta get them when they're young.
Cue the Toxic Crusaders theme and then get demonetized.
That's right. You showing nipple on my channel already got me demonetized, but I wouldn't change the thing.
Yeah, this movie sort of, you know, helped build Troma up, even though they didn't they didn't continually grow. This transitioned into Class of Nukem High, which was really well received. Then you got those 2 Toxic Avenger sequels that were not very well received, as well as like Class of Nukem High sequels that also weren't well received. And then they tried again with Sergeant Kabuki Man, and that sort of was, you know, that was sort of the glass ceiling they hit, not to get too far ahead of it.
Yeah.
And then the Toxic Avenger 4 is fun in a sense that if you're like 15 and you're like, this is edgy, like, enjoy.
I can't speak for the sequels. I did not see them, but I feel like this one has everything you need. This one has a great build-up, a great love story. It has the revenge of the baddies that created him. It's a nice origin story. It checks all the boxes of your stereotypical comic book film, but just done in a very disgusting and slapstick way. And I wouldn't change a thing about it. I would recommend this to everyone that likes more cult-ish films. Like if your favorite film is Schindler's List, maybe not Toxic Avenger, I would tell you to go see. But, I mean, you know, if you're a new filmmaker or something, like you want to, I mean, this is a clinic on how to make a film, not on the cheap. It had a little bit of a budget, but at least, you know, it's not like James Cameron budget. They spent the money. They accomplished some really good things with the budget they had for this. So, Johnny, would you recommend the Toxic Avenger?
Sure.
Not just because Dooker is going to beat you up if you say no. You can be honest.
No, this is the cheeseball schlock fest, and that's a type, man. Like this people are into this, and it's just a terrible movie and terrible, you know, sound effects, but it doesn't matter because you don't care because it's like gore, yeah, whatever. The girlfriend's blind. Fine, it makes sense. That adds up. Sure. If I gotta like pick a group, if you're into Bruce Campbell, anything Bruce Campbell, you'll be fine with this movie.
Okay.
You'll be like, okay, yeah. You know, it actually kind of makes something like Army of Darkness or Evil Dead 2 look like an Emmy Award winner. But you know, it's just, I think this is kind of there's a sliding scale, and this is all the way at one end of it, and then there's the whole horror tropes. I think if you're into 80 cheesy anything, if you're into any 80s horror movie, you're not going to be like upset with this movie. You're going to look at this, you're going to be entertained, it'll be fun. You'll be like, check the box, get the t-shirt, like Dooker, and there. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
So we have still not found the very bottom of the basement of shit that I make Johnny watch. All right, we'll keep it going. Dooker,
why do I do this myself?
I don't think I'm gonna ask you if you'd recommend this, because I mean, obvious. It's an obvious answer, but
I would absolutely not recommend this movie. Are you kidding me? What a piece of trash!
How often do you watch this movie?
I watched it today after going to the dentist. My naked barber is also my naked dentist because being a barber doesn't pay enough because I'm bald. But I watched this in the morning around 8 a.m. and fell asleep with gauze still in my mouth. It's a miracle I didn't choke to death. I will watch this movie at least once every few months. Just, see if I can catch something.
So, Dooker, this is like your Green Eggs and Ham of movies.
This is the movie I have sex to, Johnny. And guess what? I ain't having it a whole lot.
I had a kind of a weird dream about this. I mean, those are some tight pants and a small tutu, so...
Let me see your other hand. Oops. Sorry.
That tutu was so wrecked by the end of filming. Oh my god. You could tell how far along they were in production based on how wrecked that tutu was.
I personally want to, be intimate with somebody at the gym, and while she's on top of me, I want someone to walk in with a different shirt, which if you watch the movie, Melvin has from one scene to another in the same day. And I want her to pull a knife and say, if you don't leave, I'll kill you. That's the only way it works for me at this point.
His shirt was so surprised to see tips that it changed itself. Yeah.
Yeah, right? I guess Bozo just stressed the shirt out that he went from just a health club t-shirt to a button-down shirt of the same color.
This movie also reminded me of tan lines were a thing at one point. I was like, oh, yeah, I forgot about those, like the multicolored boobs. So weird. Yeah, that is our discussion of The Toxic Avenger. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. And go ahead and tell everyone that we're talking about cult films. I will be uploading this to all your favorite podcasting sites. Leave us toxic waste or, little bits of child brain and viscera. I mean, I guess that's fine. I don't have a mop handy, but I'll get one. Mr. Johnny Mulligans, thank you once again.
Thank you for having me.
Where can everyone find you, sir?
You can find me hanging around here called The Films and over on Twitter at CMDR_Hamilton. And yeah, that's nothing there. Don't worry about it. It's fine.
And the real life Toxic Avenger, when you're not punching Trash Stevens in the face, where can everyone find you, sir?
So, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter because I doubt they're ever going to have me on this show again, but they were so nice to have me. I'm at Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube at King Dooker. Find me there because while drinking this bottle of whiskey, I also decided to down this 5-hour bottle of energy, and it is about 11 o'clock my time. So I think I'm gonna go run for an hour and a half.
Just work it out.
Well, yeah, don't run into Trash Stevens, which is the brother of Trash Johnson. So both of them. I didn't know if you knew that I knew Trash Stevens. That's why I keep bringing him up.
Trash Stevens?
Yeah,
he sounds like a bad mother.
He's an asshole. Let me just tell you, he is a complete prick. I think he had sex with Bozo. That's why, he's really stressed out. But
now I have a reason to be jealous of him.
Yeah, everything is veiny and coming to an end tonight. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.